Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock. We've got 26 people on the call, so that seems like a good opportunity to get started. So thank you all for turning up, and thank you to those people who've helping me assure me that my sound is working and establishing that the chat isn't. That's not a problem. So hello and welcome to this, my masterclass on SQL and how to get your dream job in data using SQL. I'm Nick Holt from the BI School, and anyone who's seen me speak before will know that I'm all about SQL and careers in data that involve SQL. So to start, I'd really love to know whereabouts in the world you are dialing in from. I can see we've got someone in from Iran, but if you type into the Q&A section where you are calling in from, that'd be great, and get an idea of who we're talking to tonight. So if you could have a few of those, please, that'd be great. So we've got someone in from London. Good. Any others? London, California, Las Vegas, Oregon, Mexico, Canada, blimey, all over the place. No one local to me. Cardiff, London, Manchester. Oh, that's not too far. Ah, no, yeah. Hello, nice to see you on. Birmingham. Okay, Chelmsford, Nottingham. Excellent. I went to university in Nottingham. It's a fine place. Okay, so that's great. So my aim for the workshop today is, number one, to provide you with as much advice, guidance, and information as I can. Honestly, I'll give you everything I've got, everything I can based on my years of experience with SQL and business intelligence. Secondly, to introduce you to the SQL Superhero Program. This is something I offer where I can work with you alongside you to properly help you kickstart your data career. And no questions are off limits. I'm here to help as much as possible. If you do have questions, can I ask you to type them into the Q&A box, and I'll do my best to get through those at the end. Now, it would help me to be able to deliver content and information that's of the greatest benefit if you could answer this for me. What are you looking to get out of this session? So please type into the chat box. Now, it may be that you've tried to teach yourself SQL and perhaps you aren't getting anywhere. Maybe you know SQL to a good standard, but you're struggling with applying for jobs. And perhaps you've applied for jobs and fallen at the technical interview stage, or maybe something else. So please type into the box where what you think you would like to get out of this session. Now, maybe I'll read some of those out. Okay. So we've got AO saying to upskill, and Paul saying to learn SQL on my own with some online resources. Progress is slow. Yes, I understand it can be slow when especially when you're doing it on your own. Okay. Okay, we've got an intention there to be a data analyst. So all good stuff. Application process one, very good. Right. So before we go any further, I've been talking a lot already about these three letters, SQL, and kind of making the assumption that you know what it is. Well, that might not necessarily be the case. So for the truly uninitiated, let me briefly explain. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it's a coding language. Its primary purpose is for extracting data from a database. So by typing specific commands in a specific structure into a piece of database software, you can extract and manipulate data and then go on to create reports, charts, and visualizations in another piece of software such as Excel or Power BI. You can do much more with SQL, such as build databases, data flow processes, and everything else. But if you're very new to SQL, then that's probably some way off for you. So this is what SQL is. Why it's important is because it's a fundamental skill in certain career paths, such as data analysis, to name just one. And today, what I'm going to talk you through is how you can leverage your SQL skills or gain those skills in the first place to get the job that you're wanting. Okay, makes sense? Good, let's crack on. So here are the reasons why people aren't getting their dream jobs in this sector. Number one, they lack the technical skills, the SQL skills required for advertised roles. Looking at jobs, people see jobs listed, they like the look of the job title, the description, maybe it's remote or hybrid and that's appealing. Maybe the salary looks appealing, but the skills listed as essential, well, you don't have them yet. And it's not like it's asking for a master's degree in astrophysics. It's stuff that feels attainable, you just haven't attained it yet. Number two, they haven't found a means of learning SQL that works for them. So I mainly deal with people who find themselves short in the skills department, and the missing skill is SQL. Perhaps they've tried looking on YouTube, Googling it, doing some courses, but nothing's really working. And honestly, I know how you feel because I've been there myself, and I speak to a lot of people who also fit that description. So if that's you, then you are not alone, believe me. And three, they don't know how to network, to connect with the people who are advertising these roles. So this is a tough one because on the face of it, you've got websites advertising jobs. You can apply with a single click a lot of the time, but where does that get you? Well, kind of nowhere really. I've never met anyone who got a job after hitting quick apply and just waiting. It never happens. And you've also got platforms like LinkedIn, where there's a world of recruiters, employers, job posters, and it's like being in a sweet shop, except it's not, because unless you have a good strategy, it's like being outside a sweet shop, looking in through the glass. It feels like a party to which you're not invited because you haven't yet figured out how to virtually meet people and get yourself known in that digital space. And the fourth one is this: people are unprepared for the technical interview and end up failing at the final hurdle. How frustrating is that when you've been through the process, maybe applied for 20 or 30 jobs, finally got an interview, and then you're faced with a technical challenge that knocks you sideways and you blow it. It's all very well having a good technical knowledge of SQL, but when you're challenged on it in a pressure situation, then you can come unstuck. I think it's a bit like taking penalties in football. Harry Kane probably scores 99 out of 100 penalties in training, but in a World Cup quarter-final with 10 or 20 million people watching and all the pressure on his back, and he sticks it over the bar. Not that I'm saying I could do any better, of course. Now, this isn't rocket science, and I'm going to give you some workable strategies to get around these obstacles. Okay, so there are three elements to this, and I'm going to go through all of these in real detail today. So part one is about clarity. Part two is about the technical elements. And in part three, I'm going to be talking about the process. And I'm going to be addressing these in great detail today. So if you've got to make sure you're staying to the end to get everything in that I'm going to tell you. Okay, so if you've not seen me speak before, and if you've not worked with me, then let me properly introduce myself. I'm Nick Holt, founder and director of the BI School, and BI stands for Business Intelligence. I set up the BI School in 2022, a little over a year ago, with the sole intention of helping people learn SQL and transition their careers into data. Some people I help are already working in a data-related role, and they're looking to upgrade or advance their careers. A lot are uni graduates who have touched on SQL, but the university program they're on has failed to teach them everything they need. And this is actually a massive bugbear for me, how badly SQL is taught in universities in the UK and beyond. It's like an afterthought. Anyway, I digress. Over the last 12 months, I've helped dozens of people progress from their existing careers or no careers at all into well-paid jobs that are using SQL on a daily basis. This is generally through my coaching and mentoring program, which I'll touch on later. And I've said in this slide that my vision is to create a simple and effective means for people to learn SQL, to enhance their career. SQL has been awesome for me and my career, and I want to share that about because there's room for everyone. And I've said there that learning SQL can and should be simple and fun, which is completely true. I absolutely love SQL and I hope that some of my enthusiasm shows through for you today. Now, I do a lot of my talking about SQL on LinkedIn. If you're already on LinkedIn, chances are that's how you found out about this webinar. But either way, I'd love you to connect with you on LinkedIn. So please get out your phones and scan that QR code with your camera, and it'll take you straight to my LinkedIn page where you can follow me or connect with me and join in the conversation. I'm posting content daily about SQL, and you can hopefully learn a lot just by reading those daily posts. So get out your phone, switch on your camera and scan that code. It'll take you straight to my LinkedIn profile. Go on there and click follow, please. And if you can't scan it, or if you're watching this on your phone, then there's the web address on that slide as well. Okay. So let's get into it then by looking at the big question, which is all about getting clear on the job you're seeking and asking, do you actually need SQL to get that job? And if so, to what level? Now, I spoke about this earlier. You need to know what you want. And the reason for that is if you don't know what you want, or you think you want something, then you might find that when you get there, it's not what you're expecting. And then if you do know what you want, do you actually know what you need to do to get there? So for example, a lot of entry-level data analytics roles don't actually need SQL. If you want to advance your career from entry-level to something more senior, then SQL will most definitely help. But to get a foot in the door, it might not even matter. You can do data analysis in Excel. Possible, that's all I'm saying. So let's have a look at a few commonly mentioned roles or careers and see what you might need for those roles. So entry-level data analyst, as I've said, SQL, probably not all that important. For a mid-level data analyst, you probably need some basic SQL. Now, this is for mainly when you're extracting data from a database to then plug into a third-party piece of software, such as Excel, Power BI, Tableau, Click, for example. A senior data analyst would probably be expected to have intermediate SQL skills for data extraction, aggregation, doing some calculations, etc. Not too advanced, but a good level of understanding. Data engineers need advanced SQL. That's a given, as they do some fairly complicated stuff. And data science is a highly technical career, and for that you would certainly need fairly advanced SQL. There are similar roles such as insights analyst, financial reporting analyst, BI analyst, BI developer, DBA. And one I just want to pick out from that slide is financial reporting analyst or finance analyst. This is a role that's massively on the increase in terms of having a requirement to know SQL. A lot of financial analysis is done in Excel, but there's a growing trend for raising the bar in terms of what people need to do with data. So if there's anyone from a finance background here today, then that might be of interest to you. So you may relate to this person. Jennifer was someone I worked with who was experiencing this lack of clarity. She was working in an IT support role and wanted to move into data analytics. She'd heard about this career that everyone's talking about, heard it was a common role, a growing industry, something interesting and something somebody with an analytical mind like hers might be good at. But she didn't really know what was required in terms of technical skills. She had sent me a DM on LinkedIn and asked how she could break into data analysis. And we arranged a Zoom call. I did a screen share, and together we searched for some analytics roles. And we were talking about them in terms of duties and responsibilities, location, hours, working conditions, pay, and of course, skills. And then we chatted about the path she'd need to follow in order to get there. She needed to brush up on some Excel functions, but mainly with Jennifer, it was SQL. She had no previous knowledge of the subject. However, she didn't need to learn anything beyond the basics. So we planned out her learning, and in around 6 weeks of weekly Zoom sessions, she had reached a good knowledge enough to start applying for jobs. And she got one as well, actually in the company she already worked in. By chance, a reporting analyst job came up. She applied, interviewed, and was successful. So it's all about knowing what you're aiming for and then how to get there. There are right ways and wrong ways to learn SQL. I've made a passing reference to Google, YouTube, online courses, self-learning, but it's all down to the individual. Now, I tend to help people who have tried those methods and failed. So it's all about knowing where to start and then what order in which to learn the topics. It's very easy to be blindsided by someone, maybe someone like me, talking on social media or in blogs about some cool SQL command. Then you go off chasing that only to end up lost and confused because you've gone too deep too soon. And I'll talk in a few moments about how I can help you solve this particular problem. And the final thing is what to focus on and what to ignore. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't need to know all SQL, just the relevant bits once you've figured out what those are. So a few moments ago, I mentioned knowing which order in which to learn SQL. And honestly, if there's one main thing which trips people up, it's this. So I've spoken to people who say they're very basic level SQL and they list about 4 or 5 commands they're aware of. And then they say, oh, I really struggle with window functions or CTEs or pivot. And those things are way too advanced for somebody with only basic skills. It's like having 2 driving lessons and then attempting smoking donuts on Tesco car park. It's too much, too soon. So I created a document, a 14-page PDF called Your SQL Roadmap to Success. And that's something I'll let you have for free. In a nutshell, it tells you what to learn and in what order. And it's been downloaded well over 600 times and people are finding it really helpful. I've had some great feedback from people who've used it to start self-learning SQL. And if you can wait until the end of the session, I'll show you how to download that. So, by the way, is this all making sense? If you have any questions, make sure you're putting those in the Q&A section and I'll get to those at the end. Okay, so now let's talk about the second of those key areas I mentioned earlier, those points of failure where people trip up. And this is all about handling technical interviews. Now, SQL assessments in job interviews can be daunting, no matter what your skill level and amount of experience you have in SQL. Being tested on that knowledge in a pressure situation can be really daunting, a bit scary. I've seen very capable people crumble when asked questions in an interview. So Google won't be your savior here. Now, who here has relied on Google for your interview preparation and research? If that's you, stick a yes in the Q&A window. Now, I've tried that and I've got caught out because it's so unfocused, weak and generic. You can spend an hour or two looking for likely interview questions. I've done that and I've sat in interviews and the interview questions you get from Google are rarely anything like the questions you hear in real life interviews. And in any case, half the battle is knowing how the interviews are structured. You need to know what format these assessments take. And there are 3 main types, as we'll see shortly. So you need to be prepared. And that means trying to recreate interview conditions or getting someone to help you with that and the timing. And remember this, you can't blag a technical interview. You either know it or you don't, and you will be found out if you don't have the technical knowledge. Okay, so I said a minute ago that there are 3 types of SQL technical assessment. These are verbal, written and hands-on. And I'm seeing a couple of yeses have popped up for the question about using Google to try and prepare for those job interviews. So these interview formats, verbal, written and hands-on. So the verbal assessment, this could be for lower level SQL positions where an in-depth understanding might not be necessary, but you need to know the basics. I've also used this technique or seen this technique used as an initial gateway interview for more technical roles, almost like a pre-interview interview. So they'll ask you some basic questions on a remote call. And if you have no idea, then they won't waste their time or yours calling you in for a proper interview. It'll most likely take place over Zoom or Teams, as is most common these days. And you'll probably have 2 or 3 interviewers. And these will probably be senior technical developer types who will likely be in or around your team if you get the job. They'll just ask you some questions and you'll give the answers verbally. I've given some examples here. It's things like, what's the difference between an inner join and a left join? Or what's the difference between union and union all? Or tell us when you might use a dense rank. So these Just fairly basic questions, but they might stick in some curveballs just to see how you respond to that situation. But generally, these are friendly, low pressure occasions. Now, has anyone done any of these types of interview? Maybe have some tales of woe when it's not quite gone how you were expecting? I'm being told the sound is quite choppy. You let me know if it's not coming through clearly. Okay. Okay, so sound is fine for some. It could be internet connections, possibly. Okay, so some and saying yes, once had that situation. Yeah. Interviews generally aren't much fun for anybody, generally speaking. Well, these people are just trying to test your technical knowledge. That's their entire purpose. So you do need to know your stuff, which of course you will, because you'll have been committed to learning SQL for the previous weeks or months, and you'll have prepared and practiced, as we shall see. Now, the written assessment might be more suitable where an intermediate or advanced understanding is required. You'll need to be able to think on your feet and demonstrate a good overall knowledge of SQL. This will be a bit more challenging and will probably be used if you're going for perhaps a more technical job, something like writing a query based on a table schema. So this is why this information is important, because when you're going through this process, this is what will likely happen. Okay, you'll get some questions typed on a piece of paper. It can either write down your answers in pen or just talk through your solution. Again, it's the interviewer's intention to understand your skill level with SQL and whether or not you've lied on your CV. And just on that point, don't lie on your CV. You will always get found out, and it can be embarrassing if they start grilling you on something that you've no knowledge of, and it makes things uncomfortable for the interviewer and very uncomfortable for you, and you won't get the job. They will doubt your skills and simply won't trust you. However, with training, coaching and mentorship, you'll be all set. We'll see to that. Now, this is the one you will face if you're applying for a role which required an intermediate or advanced knowledge of SQL. In this instance, you'll be placed in front of a computer, and this would take place on location at the place you're hoping to work. So there might only be one question, one challenge, but it would be something that would be quite tricky and maybe take 30 to 40 minutes to complete. It could be something like build some database tables to handle this specific set of data, or design a data flow, or perhaps debug a query. And they're looking for the ability to resolve issues, make assumptions, figure things out, problem solve, that's the big one, and work on your own. Now, it can be pretty hardcore, but if you've taken the time to learn SQL or been taught properly, then it's going to be well within your capabilities. Has anyone sat this sort of an interview, the sort of full-on technical interview? Stephanie says, had a question in an online multiple choice format where I was given quite a complicated situation and had to say how many rows there would be after a left or inner join. Okay, yeah. I mean, those things are quite tricky at the best of times, but when you're doing that under pressure, it can be hard. Stephanie goes on to say, I think I got it right, but not sure, didn't get invited to interview. But it can be a number of reasons why you didn't get invited. But yeah, those can be tricky, and they're very easy to get wrong, especially, if you're under pressure. So I've sat a few of those interview types myself, and I've been on the other side of the desk too, so it's not much fun for anybody. So like I said, the interview method and level will match the role you're applying for. So some of this might sound a bit scary, but by the time you get to an interview, you'll be well prepared technically anyway. Now, hopefully those last few slides weren't too intimidating and I've not put you off this path. But the key to success is to get the work in and you'll nail it. However, how do you do this? Well, first of all, if you get offered an interview, they will tell you what format your interview will take. So there's not going to be any big nasty surprises. That just doesn't happen. And you'll also have some idea based on the type of job that you're going for. If it's entry-level data analysis, you'll know it's going to be fairly simple. So it's what I call the 3 P's, prepare, practice and polish. Prepare is knowing what interview format you'll be expecting and getting hold of some sample interview questions. Practice is going through those interview questions, and polish is simply rinse and repeat. Make sure you've done it and done it again so that you're calm and relaxed on the day. So that will leave you prepared for the relevant interview format, practiced with some good sample questions, and polished for a great performance. And the rest of the interview is down to you, your personality, your other technical skills, and of course, your soft skills. Now, let's very briefly talk about those soft skills. At the BI school, I don't teach these things. I'm not even sure these things are teachable. These are normal, everyday professional skills you would need to demonstrate whether you're going for a job with SQL or as a school teacher, bank manager, office assistant, anything. If you've ever sat any sort of interview or worked in any job, these are those skills that cost nothing, don't require training, and that help you get you places. So it's stuff like communication, time management, decision-making, problem solving, teamwork, organization abilities, adaptability. And that's by no means an exhaustive list. That's just a few that I've thought of based on my own experience. Okay, is all this still making sense? If you do have a question, make sure you're putting it in the Q&A section and I'll get to those at the end. Okay. Ronan says, passed the interview but didn't get the job as they hired someone with more experience. There's always going to be a bigger fish. You know, that's just the luck of the draw. So that's just unlucky. But the more you practice, the more experience you get, then one day that'll be you. You'll be the person with more experience. Okay, so on to the third section now, and here we're actually going to talk about the process of learning SQL. So I've just addressed the issue of preparing for job interviews, and back in step 1, I talked about knowing what you want, making a plan to get there. So here I want to discuss the actual process of learning SQL, because it's easy for me to say, you know, make a plan and go ahead and do it. But as I've said here, self-learning SQL can be a lonely and daunting activity. Just give me a sec whilst I have a sip of my beverage. So it can be boring spending time in your evenings or weekends at your laptop when Netflix is calling, or there's football on telly, or the sun's out, or your mates are going out somewhere. Doing it on your own can be daunting when you first begin that process. Some aspects of SQL are complicated and difficult to explain, and therefore difficult to understand. And sometimes you need someone to say, well, let's try this approach, and then it clicks. Do you see what I mean here? Does this make sense? Do you agree? I mean, a lot of it relates to other elements of SQL too, and understanding those relationships is another topic that people can trip up on. And that is why it is crucial to have someone in your corner to tell you if you're on the right lines or not. Now, when it comes to learning SQL, you have two options. DIY stands for do it yourself. So follow the roadmap from the PDF I mentioned earlier. Do the research yourself, enforce your own accountability. Be responsible for your own pace and time management. Figure it all out yourself. And the upside is, because those things are all pretty much stonewall negatives, the upside is it's free. It doesn't cost you anything apart from your time and, well, possibly a few grey hairs. And the alternative is you can do it with my help. This is something I'll talk about later when I go into more detail about the SQL Superhero program. But if you do it with my help, I'll be your guide, your friendly, supportive, interactive guide and mentor. I'll be there for you when you get stuck, because everyone hits a roadblock at some point in time. I'll help you on your way, and you'll get to where you want to be quicker and more easily. Now, working with a coach and mentor isn't everyone's cup of tea. Doesn't work for everyone. However, pretty much all the people who've passed through the virtual doors of the BI school have said that what they felt they were missing in the past was guidance, hand-holding, and the main one, accountability. So that's someone asking, where are you up to? What have you managed to learn this week? What has caused you a problem this week? Do you need my help specifically for anything? And if that's a yes, let's jump on a one-to-one for 15, 20 minutes. But it's also about asking, what are your wins this week? Let's celebrate those, no matter how small. It's not about cracking the whip, it's about creating an encouraging environment. So I've got images here of 3 movie mentors, Yoda, Mr. Miyagi, and Morpheus, all there to help, guide, and mentor our heroes here to their eventual success. So what does that mean for you? Well, let me just quickly review what we said at the beginning. The most common problems people face are these: not knowing the level of SQL needed for their dream role, not knowing how to prepare effectively for interviews, not knowing where to start or how to progress in SQL. So the question is this: what are we going to do for you? Well, when you choose to come and work with me, we'll make a plan. We'll establish what level of SQL knowledge you need for the role you want. We'll do a bit of research, have a look at some job postings, and then we'll figure out how to get there. I will support you on your journey, and that means coaching, mentoring, and encouragement. Then I will help you prepare for interviews. That's preparation and practice. Now, here's a disclaimer. I'm not a careers coach. I'm not a recruitment consultant or a recruitment expert. All I've got is my own experiences, the knowledge I've built up over my 20 years or so working in this industry. So all the stuff about interview prep, that's just me talking from the heart and telling you how it is out there. So I've identified and mapped out a 15 to 20 week plan. That's 10 to 15 weeks to learn SQL. So we start here after we've done that early discovery work of figuring out what we're trying to achieve. And then around 3 weeks to make your LinkedIn profile rock and start building a network of recruiters and people with the jobs, because that's the most effective way to get interviews. And then about 2 weeks to get you interview ready. Now, these time periods aren't set in stone by any means, but that's what I urge people to try to stick to. Some people take a little more time to get through it. There's really no time limit, but time, well, we all know it waits for no one. And the quicker you get through it, the quicker your career can progress in the way you want it to. So this is what I referred to earlier. It's the SQL Superhero Program. And here's what I can offer. And I'll just read these out. Okay, so it's guided coaching through pre-recorded video content. That's around 30 actual technical video lessons presented by me and recorded and available for you to access via a training portal. One-to-one coaching sessions at least once a month. I like to get together with everyone at least once a month, but some feel they don't need it and would prefer just to work through the videos, and some need more support, and that's fine. Group coaching and support sessions. So currently we meet on a Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. UK time for around an hour. Not this evening, obviously, because that's in about 20 minutes. People can drop in and ask questions, listen to other people's questions, or just come along to hang out. I'm trying to build a community of SQL superheroes in training, easy for me to say, where we've each have got each other's backs, okay? And then LinkedIn profile reviews. So here I'll help you define your LinkedIn profile so it's as effective as it can be. That means making sure your about me is accurate and descriptive. Your skills, work experiences are all there, and you've got a good photo, all that sort of thing. Because these days, in 2023, your LinkedIn profile is your online CV. And then CV help. Now, this is not my exact area of expertise, but I've seen a lot of CVs in my time, some good ones and some bad ones and some very bad ones, to be honest. And I'll give you some pointers on how to make it the best it can be. Now, this is something that I might hand over to a partner to help with, someone who does have a lot of CV writing and assessing experience. I'm currently in discussion with a few options there. And then interview preparation and practice. So this is where we work through some of those challenges, like I was talking about earlier, and then support and encouragement. And this is ongoing. It's what I'm here for, to provide technical expertise and guidance, obviously, also the support, encouragement, guidance, and mentorship you need to progress. So all this is literally what Jake did. Now, Jake was someone who worked with us a while ago. And just give me a second. Drink. My mouth dries out when I've been talking for a long time, and I've got 5 kids, so this is the longest I've ever spoken in my life without being interrupted. Okay, so yes, Jake. So this is what Jake did. What he did was to go through these steps, and this is the results that he got. It was insane what happened. He's absolutely smashing it, and all he had to do was follow what I said step by step. Have his hand held, jump onto the calls, work with me. You can see exactly what he did. I'm not going to read them all out for you. It's right there. But people are doing this right now. And if you want these positions, you need to understand that this is the shortcut. A similar story with AO, who did exactly the same thing. So AO was actually my first client, and he was studying application development at university, but struggling with the SQL. We worked together on weekly Zoom sessions for a few months. He took the challenges that I set him. He allowed me to guide him, to coach him, to mentor him. And his results were pretty astonishing too. And then a few weeks later, he got a new job in web development, and he was properly pleased with that, as was I, obviously. So people can do amazing things when managed in the right way and motivated. People regularly surprise themselves with their own progress. There are some great reviews online, which you can easily find. I'm not going to read them out. This is just one example from Trustpilot, a couple more here from LinkedIn. I've obscured the names just to protect the guy's privacy. My point here, and the reason I'm showing you these, not to show off or anything, I just want you to know that these exist. So go and check out my LinkedIn or my Trustpilot page, or look on the internet. Okay. So to recap slightly, you need a way of knowing exactly what you want. And that's simply a case of doing some good old-fashioned research. Looking at advertised jobs and establishing what they're asking for in terms of technical skills. I can help you understand the jargon and terminology used to decipher that language to tell you what you need to aim for and how to plan your learning. You need a process of learning SQL to the required standard, a path, a roadmap to follow, which tells you where to begin, what to do next. Again, I can help you here. You can have a copy of that roadmap document. I'll let you have that shortly. Or I can actually hold your hand through the entire process and do it with you. You'll get there a lot quicker and more painlessly, effectively, if you let me be your guide, your roadmap, so I can show you the direction you need to travel in your learning journey. So let me be the Yoda to your Luke Skywalker. I've done this loads of times and always with great results. It's what I do best. You need to know how to handle those interviews. And this is where people fail time and time again. It's all about knowing the format, knowing how to handle the questions. I know how passionate you are about what you do and what you want to do. So we need to work together to get you there. Hashtag stronger together. So if you've related to any of this, then you need to book a call in with me to discuss how we can look to support you. On the call, we'll just make sure you're suitable for the program and the program is suitable for you. And that's it, really. So this is for you if you'd like me to help you personally define a strategy to get you to that place, that destination and career goal where you've learned SQL to a decent standard and an appropriate standard for your own desires and ambitions, and can confidently apply for the jobs you want and deserve. I'll help you figure out what you need to learn, and then we'll learn SQL together to an appropriate level for your ideal role. And I'll help you get ready for job interviews. So here's what you can expect from your experience with the BI School. Guided coaching through those pre-recorded video contents, one-to-one coaching sessions at least once per month, more if needed, group coaching and support sessions, LinkedIn profile reviews, CV help, interview preparation and practice, and support and encouragement. I mean, that's a given, but it's also my primary USP, my unique selling point. That's what you just don't get elsewhere. Now, we do all this for just £1,200, reduced from £1,500. That's just for the next couple of months. That's GB pounds sterling. So if you're in a different currency, you need to work out the conversion rate and do that conversion. I do have the capacity to split that payment over 2, 3, or even 4 monthly payments. So that would be 1,200 divided by either 2, 3 or 4. So 2 payments of 600, 3 of 400 or 4 payments of 300. All you need to do to book a call to speak with me is to get your phone out and hover your camera over that code. Fingers crossed that the technology works. Could someone please test it? It took me ages to draw all those dots. And for those of you not using the QR code, the web address is also on that slide. In fact, what I'll do is I will send out an email a day or so after the event, which will contain all the necessary links. So now let's have a look if you've left me any questions. Just quickly whiz through these. If you have a question, now will be a good time to put it in the Q&A box. Okay. Few people answering the earlier questions. I want to get callbacks on a student trying to find internships in vain. That's all about skills. You know, the more skills you have, the more likely you are to get positions and those callbacks. So currently a high school maths teacher wanting to switch to a career in data analytics and struggling to know where to learn SQL. Well, you've got that PDF, which is the QR code on the left, or you can book a call and speak with me and I'll help you with that, Stephanie. Learning SQL for my career. Okay, someone wants to become a advanced SQL user. Hannah is going to Australia this next year and I should learn SQL to find a job there. Well, the great thing about SQL is it is a universal skill. Australia, England, UK, America, anywhere in the world uses SQL. So great intention there, and I'm sure you'll do great. This event, can I mention? Sure what that means, but let's move on. Okay. As a senior data analyst, this is IO, another IO. What other programming languages should I be expected to know apart from SQL? Well, with data analysis, the 3 main skills are SQL, Excel, and then our data visualization tools, such as Power BI or Tableau. In terms of other languages, the next one that comes on that sort of standard list of things that data analysts know is something like Python. Now, I don't know Python. I tried to learn it, was it last year or the year before, and I didn't like it. It's a bit complicated for me, but Python is definitely something that is a senior data analyst skill. So once you've nailed SQL, I would go down the Python route. Hafiz says, should we learn Excel or SQL first? Well, Excel is more of a universal tool. SQL is a bit more specialized, so maybe Excel first, but there's no reason why you can't do them together. You'll find a lot of the functions in Excel and SQL are quite similar, so that'll probably help if you're doing both of those. But Hafiz, I think I've got a call book with you, haven't I, on Thursday? Yes, I have. So looking forward to speaking to you then. We can discuss that on that call. And then Juan says, what is it that made you want to become an SQL expert? Well, that's a good question. I kind of fell into it. I was working as a data sort of database. Well, the title was data manager. This is going way back, nearly 20 years. And then I got the opportunity to move into a reporting role, which is involved writing SQL. So I started to learn SQL for that, and I've been doing it for 20 years. So then I thought I'll share my knowledge, and so I wouldn't describe myself as an expert. I think I've still got a lot to learn, but I think after 20 years, I've got a reasonable skill set. And then Stephanie says, how do I get the PDF guide from my phone? So if you're watching this on your phone, well, I gave a web address, didn't I? Let's see if I can find that web address again. Just a sec. Whiz back through these slides. Excuse me. Where was it? Yeah, to see the whole thing in reverse now. Oh, there it is. There it is. So, okay. No, forget that. I thought I put the web address in sooner, and now, right. Okay, so the web address, I'll tell you what, I'll put it in the chat window, which is, so it's this, HTTPS. Let's go. It's called content 2. So I'll put that in there. I will also put it, like I say, I will email. I'll try and send an email out in the next couple of days. Have those links on. So for that PDF, and also for the book a call, and any other links. Okay. So does anyone have any more questions? Oh, there you go. Paul says did it on his phone. You put in your name and email, and then send me the PDF. Yeah. So it's just that. But the web address is, if you can see that from the chat window, it's https://nickholt.co/freecontent2. Okay, so yeah, follow that link and put in your name and email, and then you'll get the PDF. Okay, so if that's it in terms of questions, then let me just close. So that's the end of the session. So I really hope you found that useful. Don't forget there are only 10 slots available. So get in quickly because they do go fast. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll see you next time or on that call. So thank you for joining, and goodbye.